These 7 calisthenics exercises build more muscle than weight training. Every year, the fitness industry launches a new reason to make you spend more. The machine that better isolates the muscle, the supplement that maximizes performance, the method no personal trainer ever told you about. It is an intentional cycle because a person who already has everything they need to train is not a good customer. What this industry does not want you to know is that the stimulus needed to build muscle does not depend on equipment, but on progressive mechanical tension on the muscle fibers. You can achieve that with your own body, anywhere, without spending a thing. That is what science has shown for decades. So today you will see 7 calisthenics exercises you can do at home, capable of generating more hypertrophy than most people can achieve inside a gym. Before we begin, please tell us in the comments your name and the city you are watching our content from. We would love to know. Exercise number 7. Step up with knee raise. The step up with knee raise is a unilateral exercise that combines strength, balance, and motor coordination in a single movement, making it one of the most complete and underestimated exercises in calisthenics. The muscles primarily targeted are the gluteus maximus, the quadriceps, and the hip stabilizers, with special emphasis on the gluteus medius, which is intensely activated to maintain pelvic alignment throughout the entire movement. It is worth noting that the gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in the human body, and having it well developed directly impacts not only aesthetics, but also pelvic stabilization and the prevention of lower back pain. A study published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research demonstrated that unilateral lower body exercises generate levels of gluteus maximus activation comparable to, and in some cases superior to, bilateral squats with load. Can you imagine the impact of that on your lower body training? This happens because the body cannot compensate with the stronger side, forcing the working limb to take full responsibility for the movement. The elevation of the opposite knee at the top of the movement adds an extra demand on the hip flexors and challenges dynamic balance, making the exercise even more complete. To perform it correctly, place a sturdy bench or step in front of you, step up with one leg pressing the heel against the surface, and at the top, raise the opposite knee to hip height before lowering in a controlled manner. The lowering phase deserves special attention, as this is where the eccentric phase of the movement occurs. Lowering slowly, taking 2 to 3 seconds, maximizes the hypertrophy stimulus. The main errors to avoid are using the push-off leg for momentum to step up, which removes the load from the working muscle, and descending too quickly, wasting the potential of the eccentric phase. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions per leg. People with knee injuries, especially patellofemoral syndrome or patellar tendonitis, should be cautious with the step height and seek professional guidance before progressing. Exercise number 6. Decline push-up. The decline push-up is a variation of the traditional push-up in which the feet are elevated relative to the hands, significantly altering the angle of force applied to the chest and shoulders. This repositioning transfers the load to the clavicular portion of the chest, the so-called upper chest, while also increasing the recruitment of the anterior deltoid and the triceps. The upper chest is widely recognized as the most difficult region to develop, precisely because of the limited working angles that traditional exercises offer. In a gym, stimulating this area normally requires an incline bench press. Here, you do exactly that with a chair. It is also important to highlight that the chest goes far beyond horizontal adduction. It participates in internal shoulder rotation and humeral flexion, and by tilting the body at this angle, the exercise recruits these functions in an integrated way, generating a more complete stimulus than most people imagine. To perform it, place your feet on a stable bench or chair. Position your hands slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Keep your body completely straight and lower until your chest nearly touches the ground before pushing back up. Throughout the entire movement, maintain a slight scapular retraction. This detail protects the shoulders and ensures the load falls correctly on the chest. The main errors to avoid are letting the hips rise and form an arch, which indicates the core is not being activated, only going halfway down, which drastically limits the muscular stimulus, and flaring the elbows completely out to the sides, placing unnecessary stress on the shoulder joint. The elbows should point slightly outward, forming an angle of approximately 45 degrees relative to the torso. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 10 to 15 repetitions. Individuals with subacromial impingement syndrome or shoulder instability should reduce the foot elevation or avoid the exercise until sufficient joint stability is achieved. Exercise number 5, triceps dip. The triceps dip is one of the most effective and accessible exercises for triceps development and can be performed on any bench, sturdy chair, or stable ledge. Electromyography research conducted by the American Council on Exercise ranked the triceps triceps dip among the exercises with the highest activation of the triceps brachii, surpassing popular movements such as the cable pushdown and dumbbell extension. And you know why this angle is so different from other triceps exercises? The positioning of the movement places the long head of the triceps in active lengthening during the lowering phase, generating a particularly intense hypertrophy stimulus. The triceps represents approximately 2/3 of the total volume of the arm, which means that developing it well has a much greater impact on the appearance of the upper limbs than focusing exclusively on the biceps. To perform it, sit on the edge of a bench with your hands positioned beside your hips. Slide your body off the edge and lower by bending the elbows to approximately 90 degrees. Then push back up until the arms are fully extended. Throughout the entire movement, keep the shoulders depressed, meaning away from the ears. This protects the joint and ensures the work remains concentrated in the triceps. A tip that makes a difference: before pushing back up, pause briefly at the lowest point. This isometric moment at the bottom increases time under tension and intensifies the stimulus without requiring any load adjustment. The main errors to avoid are moving the hips too far from the bench, which places the shoulder in a dangerous position, and flaring the elbows out to the sides, which reduces recruitment of the target muscle. The elbows should bend backward, parallel to each other. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 10 to 15 repetitions. The main contraindication is for those with shoulder pain or instability, as the exercise positions the joint in a vulnerable range of motion when performed incorrectly. Exercise number 4, elevated glute bridge. The elevated glute bridge is an evolution of the traditional glute bridge that considerably increases the range of motion of the hip, generating a much more intense stretching and contraction stimulus in the glutes than the version performed on the floor. By elevating the feet on a bench or stable surface, the hips can drop below the level of the support, which allows the fibers of the gluteus maximus to start from a position of greater lengthening before each contraction. This mechanism is fundamental for hypertrophy. In the floor version, this pre-stretch simply does not exist. In addition to the glutes, the exercise intensely works the hamstrings, which act as synergists in hip extension and requires constant stabilization of the lower back and core throughout the entire movement. It is worth highlighting that the hamstrings are a muscle group frequently neglected relative to the quadriceps, and the imbalance between them is one of the main causes of knee injuries. To perform it, lie on your back with your feet resting on an elevated surface. Press your heels into the support and raise your hips until they form a straight line between your knees, hips, and shoulders. Hold for 1 to 2 seconds at the top with maximum glute contraction before lowering slowly. The main errors to avoid are using the lower back to lift the hips instead of the glutes, which can cause back pain, and descending without control. Wasting the eccentric phase. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions. People with acute lower back pain should start with the floor version before progressing to the elevated variation. Before we continue, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Having constant access to science-based information is what will help you progress safely and sustainably in the world of exercise. Exercise number 3, Pike push-up. The Pike push-up is the most important bodyweight exercise for shoulder development and serves as a direct progression toward the handstand push-up. The inverted V positioning, with the hips elevated and the head pointing toward the ground, directs a large portion of the body weight vertically over the shoulders, simulating the loading pattern of a vertical overhead press. The muscles primarily targeted are the anterior deltoid and the lateral deltoid, with significant participation from the triceps and the scapular stabilizers. The deltoids form a highly complex joint, with 3 portions that need to be trained in a balanced way to ensure joint health. The development of the lateral deltoid is what creates the sensation of broad shoulders and the V-taper, which is one of the most sought-after aesthetic goals in strength training. A study published in the Journal of Human Kinetics evaluated muscle recruitment in different pressing exercises and concluded that vertically inclined push-up variations activate the deltoid in a way equivalent to overhead pressing exercises with external load. For those who train without equipment, this exercise is not an inferior alternative. It is simply equivalent. To perform it, start from the push-up position. Raise your hips to form the V shape, look toward your feet, and lower your head toward the ground between your hands. Then push back up with the focus on the shoulders. The more vertical the angle of the body relative to the ground, the greater the demand on the deltoid. As you get stronger, progress by increasing the torso incline by placing your feet on a higher surface. The main errors to avoid are not raising the hips enough, which turns the exercise into a regular push-up and eliminates the working angle on them. Shoulders and flaring the elbows too much, overloading the joint. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions. Those with rotator cuff injuries or subacromial impingement syndrome should avoid the exercise until cleared by a medical professional, as the angle of force can aggravate these conditions. Exercise number 2, mountain climber. The mountain climber is a dynamic exercise that combines core stability with cardiovascular conditioning and active lower body recruitment in a continuous movement, making it one of the most versatile tools in calisthenics. Starting from the high plank position, the knees are alternated toward the chest in a rhythmic manner, keeping the core under constant tension while the hip flexors work actively. Because it is a high metabolic demand exercise, it raises the heart rate quickly and is widely used in high-intensity workouts and fat loss circuits. What makes this exercise particularly valuable is its ability to do several things at once. Work the core isometrically, mobilize the hips dynamically, and elevate the metabolism, all without leaving the same spot. And core training goes far beyond aesthetics. The spinal stability that a strong core provides is one of the main injury prevention factors in all everyday movements. To perform it correctly, keep the hips completely level with the rest of the body. The hands should remain firm on the ground, directly below the shoulders, and breathing should be rhythmic to sustain the cadence without creating unnecessary tension. For core strength and endurance work, perform 3 sets of 20 to 30 repetitions per side at a controlled pace. For cardiovascular conditioning, perform 3 sets of 30 to 45 seconds at an accelerated pace with rest intervals of 30 to 60 seconds. The main errors to avoid are raising the hips above the body line, which drastically reduces core activation and overloads the shoulders, holding the breath during exertion, which impairs cadence and performance, and letting the hips drop below the line, compressing the lower back. People with wrist pain can use dumbbells on the floor as support to keep the wrist in a neutral position during the exercise. To close out the main list, an exercise virtually unknown outside elite sport, but with one of the strongest scientific foundations in all of calisthenics. Exercise number 1, Copenhagen plank. The Copenhagen plank is a unilateral, isometric exercise for the hip adductors that, despite being still little known outside elite sports, has one of the most solid scientific foundations among bodyweight exercises. The adductors are chronically neglected muscles in most training programs, and the imbalance between them and the abductors is one of the main causes of hip and knee injuries in physically active people. A landmark study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine in 2019, conducted by Harroy and collaborators, followed professional soccer players and demonstrated that a program of just 8 weeks with the Copenhagen plank reduced the incidence of groin injuries by 41%. An impressive result for an exercise that requires absolutely no equipment. In addition to the adductors, the exercise intensely works the lateral core, the gluteus medius, and the hip stabilizers, making it a valuable complement for any calisthenics program. And the most relevant point in the context of this video, there is no conventional gym machine that replicates this working angle with the same specificity and efficiency. For once, the gym has no answer. To perform it, lie on your side with your forearm resting on the ground and your top foot on a bench or elevated surface. Raise your hips and hold your body in a straight line, maintaining the focus on the adductors. You will know you are doing it correctly when you feel a deep tension on the inner thigh, combined with effort in the lateral core. The main errors to avoid are letting the hips drop, which removes tension from the adductors and transfers effort to the spine, and rotating the torso to compensate for lack of strength, which should be corrected before progressing in duration. Start with 3 sets of 15 to 20 seconds per side and gradually progress to 3 sets of 30 to 45 seconds. The main contraindication is for those with acute adductor injuries or active osteitis pubis, who should wait for resolution of the condition before starting. These 7 exercises already demonstrate that well-applied calisthenics goes far beyond what most people imagine, but there is an 8th movement that perfectly summarizes everything we discussed throughout this video. Bonus exercise, inverted row. If there is one exercise that concentrates the best of calisthenics in terms of complete muscular stimulus without equipment, that exercise is the inverted row, one of the most complete and underestimated movements for back development. It serves as a natural bridge between beginner strength exercises and the full pull-up. The inverted row works in horizontal pulling, a fundamental movement pattern for postural balance that is chronically neglected in comparison to pushing exercises, which dominate most gym programs. The muscles primarily recruited are the rhomboids, the middle and lower trapezius, the mid and upper back, the posterior deltoid, and the biceps. The biceps in particular deserves special attention. In the inverted row, it works through a full range of motion and under high tension throughout the entire concentric phase, generating a hypertrophy stimulus very close to that of a barbell curl without needing a single dumbbell. To perform it, position a low bar, rings, or park bars at hip height, lie underneath with your body inclined, grip with hands at shoulder width, and pull your chest toward the bar while keeping your body completely straight. The more horizontal your body is relative to the ground, the greater the difficulty and the greater the stimulus. At the top of the movement, perform an active scapular retraction and hold for 1 second before lowering. This detail transfers the effort from the arms to the back muscles, which is exactly where the work should happen. The main errors to avoid are bending the hips during the movement, which turns the exercise into something close to a sit-up and completely loses the focus on the back, and pulling only with the arms without retracting the scapulae, which drastically reduces recruitment of the target muscles. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions. There are no serious contraindications for most people, but those with a distal biceps injury or elbow pain should reduce the range of motion and seek professional guidance before progressing in body inclination. If you enjoyed this and want to discover the best stretches to improve your mobility and make up for years of neglecting your own body, we have a video appearing on screen right now showing each of them in detail. Make sure to check it out. Thank you for watching all the way through, and God bless you, my friend.